Yo, it's all about realness. Ain't no time to dim that light. We were made to shine, so let's go. Oh, I gotta let it shine. No more dimming what's divine. I was born to be this way. Ain't no mask, no role to play.
So I never really talk about how difficult it is to have to answer questions or do all of these things that it is that I'm attempting to do. I mean, if I think about it, honestly, I have a lot of curricula, a lot of stuff I would like to present. I have a ridiculous amount of ideas every day, things I would like to do, things that are right now that I can talk about. And then there's just, I probably have thousands of pieces of content just from over the last 15 years. And so when I begin to try to figure out how I want to put it out, as I look at it and review it, it becomes more and more difficult to mesh it in with who it is that I currently am, and even more difficult trying to get it to integrate with who I'm becoming. See, this stage, this essence, this beginning of the Blustrophecy is all about being who it is that you were created to be, or in my case, who I was created to be. And there's a lot in accepting your gifts, your talents, and stepping into your true essence, because it's an eliminate self, an elimination of ego, and it requires an openness and a willingness to become more vulnerable and more selfless and more expressive of the inner knowledge, the inner truth, the inner being, like how much I see humanity being manipulated and how powerful we actually are, how divisions amongst the nations and amongst the tribes and amongst the people, and how all of these divisions for all of these different reasons, they really stem down to labels. And people are divided because of labels, and because of these divisions created by these labels. Labels means there's judgment. Wherever there's judgment, there's strife, and wherever there's strife, there's evil. And so we live in the midst of an evil world that comes down to one simple solution, and that's unity and acceptance. And so when we begin to talk about what the Blustrophecy actually is, it's Blue's strange prophecy, and the things that I've known, the things that have been prophesied about me, the things that I will do, and the things I've been called to do, and stepping into this transcendent time that, as I mentioned in a previous episode, it begins in a couple of months. It begins in about 3 months when we actually will be at level 1. And I know that sounds strange, but it's not for this episode. I don't want to get off topic too much. And maybe one day we will dig into stuff like that, but it's not right now. But the essence of the Blustrophecy is divine alignment and authentic living. See, these two things, they're one and the same. As we begin to align with our divine self, our true self, our most authentic self, our consciousness, when our unconscious, when we become aware of that unconscious, and we become more aware in the moment, more present, and we become less egoic and more divine, more in tune with self, then we see things clearly. And once we see things clearly, we can live authentically and integrated as the one that we are, and the one that is all. The simplicity of it comes down to helping people see that you are a powerful, creative, spiritual being with unimaginable potential, and you're eternal. And the fact that you're eternal means that you existed before this life, and this experience of consciousness and this physical being. This is development. And as we develop and we become more aware or remember our divine state, we realize that these limitations we allow these limitations. These limitations are basically things that we're allowing to dominate our essence, and we don't have to be dominated. We can take back control and do what it is that we were created to do, but that takes work. It requires many things of figuring out who you are, what it is that you love, where your passions are, where are your desires, where is it that you lose yourself, what is it that lights you up, what is it that brings you joy, in understanding your strengths, understanding your weaknesses, understanding your opportunities. These things are absolutely mandatory. But the one thing that I focus in on after studying for about, I want to say about 8 years, the spiritual aspects of it, which was the final part of my study. The problem is people don't know what they believe. They think they believe something that they once heard, or something they've heard a lot of times and they've accepted it to be true. But when you look at their actions, you could tell that they don't believe it. You listen to their words, you don't hear that they believe it. And so what I realized was people don't believe what they think they believe. And so I put together a brief study, and I used some references, and I looked up and did some academic stuff, and I also used some of my own ideas and thoughts, and I wrote a book, and this was Mindful Shields. See, Mindful Shields, you can get it on Kindle, and you can get it in hard copy. I recommend that you get the hard copy. I'll leave a link down in the description section. What I believe you will find is that even though you've believed it your entire life, is that maybe it's not even true, or it's not even worth believing. And there may have been some parts that were true, and that's how they got you wrapped up in believing that it was true. Like evolution, of course people have evolved. That's change is the one of the few constants inside of creation, change. And so yes, there has been an evolution, but to tell you that you evolved from another species into the species you are, that's ridiculous. That's like, anyway. But there's so many of these things in which we have been told that are factually true, that are not true. And so what I do here at the Blustrophecy, what we will be doing when we get through most of the questions, and as we go through the questions, I'll insert these actual episodes where I just come and talk. I'll have an agenda. I don't know what I'm coming to talk about. I'm just coming and we're talking. And we may talk about politics, we may talk about children and parenting, we may talk about self mastery, but we'll always be talking about ways to live authentically and to live aligned with the divine self and the most truest self, because that requires a mastery of self. It requires an understanding of our emotions, the way we think, the way others think, how responsible we are for responding to our environment, being present in the moment, and expanding our consciousness as we tend to grow, and keeping track of who we are, the changes that we experience, and embracing the evolutionary cycle of life and of becoming more mature, more perfect, stepping more into our roles more, because we understand our passions, our joy, our desires, and our purpose. And these things, they tend to develop over time, and they become more and more simple, and they become more and more true. See, as we examine the pieces, and the objective becomes no longer a reason for us to be stressed out, but the objective becomes a reason for us to feel more free and to allow ourselves to be who we were created to be. And now there's no more reason for you to get wrapped up in illusions, but to know that you are the creator of your reality. And in that sense, the objective reality now becomes subjective to your intention, your thoughts, your words, your actions. And this is the moment where you have stepped into the oneness reality, the oneness of your divinity, because there is no separation, there is no duality, there's only polarity. And that's what we will talk about, I guess, further as we move along into it. But now I just want to answer a few questions, but hold on real quick. Just stick with me, and I'm going to get the questions and we'll be answering them. Now, before we continue on, just want to say, if you're getting value from this channel, I want to ask that you like and subscribe. It really means a lot to us. We really appreciate you investing your time into watching these videos. We pray and hope that you're getting value from it, that's helping you to understand how to live authentically in your own life and give you the encouragement and helping you to awaken to your divine self, because there really is something valuable within inside you. There, you have gifts, you have talents, you have abilities, and you only need to acquire skills to enhance those and be able to serve the community. And you can get the skills simply by serving people and by working inside your purpose and working in a job that teaches your purpose. That's your apprenticeship. And many of us, because of the natural waves of life, we go through a natural apprenticeship, gaining skills naturally. And so I just want to say that if you are getting value, please consider subscribing, consider joining our group, and consider, you can even simply use the QR code on the screen and you can buy me a coffee or two. We really do appreciate it. It really helps us to do all of the things that we do here. And it's with extreme gratitude. Now I want to say that in this journey, or on this journey that we're on to being more authentic, to becoming more real, to being ourselves, it's not as simple as the way I explain it. I know that a lot of times I'm just trying to rush through it. I done worked out the concepts and I want to get through the explaining, or through the video, and I want to respect your time and keep the video short. And so sometimes I feel like I rush the video or I rush the questions, and I don't want to do that in this video. I want to be more authentic, more real, more thoughtful, more giving of myself, more vulnerable. I'm trying to really express these different ideals in an extreme and authentic way, because I know that it will help anybody who watches this video and who enjoys content like this, that watching me be real and watching me experience the emotions and go through this change, go through this from the pinnacle that I'm in into the next pinnacle, and becoming my more mature self, and transforming into the person I was created to be, and reaching the levels that were already set for me to reach. Just like we all have things, whether you believe in fate or not, there are certain things and certain energies that are moving and that you were born into, and that are actually happening at all times. I will eventually explain all of that. But as I've already mentioned, I have decades of content that I will attempt to figure out how to get the most of it out without overloading your feeds. We have multiple channels. We're going to begin production for these other channels, and we'll be having a lot of different opportunities for you to gain skills, gain understandings about skills, gain understanding about who you are, who you were created to be, and how to turn that into a business, how to live a life full of passion, joy, and basically just learning to be content with your life. And see, content is a state that you could continually be in as you ascend level to level, knowing that everything requires work, and the work is on the inside. Like where I am now in my walk, it's a paradox. It almost feels where I have to continue to encourage myself and help me understand that I don't fully understand who I'm becoming, but I'm focused because I know where it is that I'm going. I know what it is that I'm leaving behind. I'm relieving myself of the ego's control and taking back control over my life by asking myself these questions, by spending the time here doing what it is that I was called to do, and that's helping you to discover your purpose and to align with that and to live authentically with who you were created to be. So with all of that said, let's get into the first question. I can make my environment a reflection of my inner world by structuring time to clean up and straighten up my environment and keeping my stuff organized. And if I learn to do that regularly, at the end of the day, make sure that I straighten everything back up, throw everything away that needs to be thrown away, file everything that needs to be filed away, stack my books back up, put everything where it goes, and take my journal and everything upstairs with me to go to bed. If I begin to clean up my environment as I'm cleaning up my spiritual and my mental space, then these two things will begin to reflect one another, and this will enhance my growth, and it will enhance the way that I view life. When I come down in the morning, if I've spent more time doing things around the house before I get into the office, then when I get into the office, it's no clutter, it's already organized. I can sit down, turn on the computer, and get right to work rather than having to come in, throw water bottles away, figure out which sticky notes I need and which ones I don't need, reorganizing the books, the folders, and everything that I had open from the night before. If I begin to allow my environment to reflect the things that I'm doing with my mental and spiritual space, then that will enhance my time, my energy spent. And this is a excellent time to show a principle here. See, the energy that we spend on things, it's always in our control when we do them, how they get spent, and when we do it. There's an enemy that many of us know, and some people live with, and some of us have as our best friends, and that's procrastination. Procrastination is such a serious thing. It comes from not honoring and valuing time, and not respecting ourselves and respecting others and respecting the time that is allotted to each and every single one of us. Time is a valuable, intangible thing that, although it's a construct, and we know that time is also a way for us to calculate the opportunities given to us from moment to moment, and how much energy and where that energy has been spent over a span. So as the span of energy is expressed, and so everything that we do is an expression of our energy, and the way that we express it can be either invested, or it can be spent, and it could be wasted. And so the way that you use your energy over the span of which we call time, it really dynamically is important for you to make sure that you do things at the best times to allow for your energy when you're beginning momentum, that your momentum in the beginning of the day is not backed up by the things that you should have done the day before, which you, if you would have just took a couple of moments at the end of the day to do them, or if you force yourself to make sure that you have a checklist of things that you do before you go to bed, like checking the windows, locking the doors, making sure everything's closed, whatever it is. If you don't have a checklist, you should have one, and it should include things like straightening out, preparing for preparing to go to work, knowing where your keys are, knowing what you want to wear, having an idea of what you want to wear, really preparing yourself, setting yourself up for success. And so what I say is that I'm setting myself up with the meditations and the affirmations, and I'm setting up my mental self and my spiritual self for success. But oftentimes when I get up from my desk at the end of the day, I guess when I come back, there's maybe a water bottle or two already still here on the desk. And that's something that I could do to be able to allow my environment to reflect my inner world, and that would also enhance my energy, my momentum that I'm able to build in the morning without having to pause when I come in here because now I got to go take stuff and go throw it away. So when we talk about boundaries and we talk about honor, these two things need to be first defined. So a boundary is something that you give yourself a limit, or you could call it a standard, something that that's something I don't do because I don't do it. It's just I don't see it as beneficial to my life. And so therefore a boundary is a line that you have decided that you will not cross, and that you won't cross it for any reason, and that gets into values. And so then when you say the honor, now you're talking about what limitations do I honor, do I value, what limitations do I value in my becoming. So honor is value and boundaries are limitations. And in my becoming, I'm having to honor and I know I've said this before, it's probably to another question, but I really have to begin to honor the fact that TV and entertainment, even if it's YouTube and I'm watching something that's quote unquote educational, that's still not extremely beneficial or not beneficial expression of my energy. It's not a good way to spend my time. And I try to play it off as I'm investing my time, like I might watch a video that's on a topic that's familiar, and many times they're not accurate, or we don't share the exact same philosophy or understanding, and so therefore it ends up being just time spent, especially if I don't have a journal and a pen and paper and taking notes. Then I'm really just spending time watching a video. Is the same thing as watching TV. And I enjoy podcasts, and I do make time to watch the podcasts that I like to watch. And most of the time they're 2 or 3 hours long, so I have to watch them in pieces. But I try to watch them, and I watch the segments and this boundary to not watch. So I used to have a limitation where I would only watch TV or YouTube or Netflix during meals. But what would happen is most shows are longer than it would take for me to eat a meal. And so I would still sit there and finish a show or finish watching more of the podcast past the end of the meal. So I have to respect the boundary of saying, hey, TV just doesn't fit. There's been studies and people who earn the type of money that it is that I'm planning on earning. These people, they watch less than 4 or 5 hours of TV a week. Then that means then my personality, my reality needs to already reflect that new reality of who I'm becoming, because either you have to become before you can be. And every stage of being, we should be focused on who we're becoming and intentionally always moving towards actualization. And as we move towards actualization, we should always remember that each stage of actualization is the new foundation. And that's the common understanding of growth and becoming and building and strengthening who you are. Because if you want to do better, man, you got to be better. And if you want to be better, you have to intend to become something better. You have to focus on your relationships. You got to focus on your values, your boundaries, your environment, and allow these things to all become so wrapped up and intertwined with your focus, if and with who it is that you're becoming, reminding you that you're doing more, becoming more, being more. No matter where you are, there's always more that you can do and more that you can become, because every limitation that exists in your life is simply just something that you're allowing to limit you. And that goes for you, me, and anybody that you know. And if you know this to be true, or if you have questions about this, make sure you write it down in the comments, because I'll be happy to go deeper into some of these concepts that I just share slightly as I answer these questions. I will go deeper into these concepts, but I want to make sure that I respect your time and make sure that these videos don't get too long as I continue on to the next question. And this is just a continuation of the previous question. And all of these questions, as they should help you to get a more full picture of who it is that we are and who we were created to be, and how living authentically is being divine. And when we talk about experience our highest good, I'm called to be disciplined for my highest good through making sure that I stay focused and accept the transformation and the transition, and begin to respect my spiritual studies, respect my environment, respect myself, respect my relationships, and respect the times that I've set aside to get things done and to do specific things. Like, for as I said earlier, we have these channels I want to put out, and I want to be able to put out various different things, parts of content, some old stuff for people that may be on earlier levels. I can't honestly express through this platform things that I no longer see as valuable to me or to the levels and to where it is that I'm going. But I do understand the value of that stuff in getting me to where I am. And I never want to confuse that. And so, just so I'm not talking in riddles, we could just say that I I spent a considerable amount of time as a fundamentalist Christian. I think that time really helped for me to clear up some things and transform me. And I understand the way of Christ in a greater way. And I understand living divine, how that was the message that we can see if we look at his example, what he was sent to do. He did it at the cost, even up until his life. Once you know who you are and who you're supposed to be, that's what you do at any cost. And so that's what it is that I'm attempting to do here. And that means that, okay, I have a purpose, and I understand that I have to be authentically me. And I also understand that there was no judgment. I also understand that means that there's this, not only is there authenticity, but there's this vulnerable acceptance of people, and helping them to see who they are and how valuable they are. And once they can see that they're divine and who they are and who they were created to be, that this would help them to want to be better and to improve their life and enhance their life in whatever way that means. But it does mean that you'll be less harmful to yourself, less harmful to others, and work on increase and improvement and bringing value to your life and to the lives of those who you're in contact with. So, in being disciplined in doing this, this is a big part of it. Just talking and being real with you and having a conversation with you, and not trying to fluff and bluff and try to sound all smart and try to sound all intellectual. I'm just a regular guy who really cares about humanity and really sees how digressive the so-called progressive movement is. I've called this now for over 15 years. I've been saying that we're living in the great digression, and there's so much evidence out there how far we've digressed further and further into what people 30 years ago would have called uncivilized. We are becoming less civilized in the simplest way of understanding it. But I really don't want to get too far into that. That's more regular Blustrophecy stuff. You will get plenty of that, but right now we just want to make sure that we get through the questions, and I keep it real with you that I do respect your time, but I respect the process of answering these questions and the things that you all and myself can learn, because I haven't pre-answered these questions. Where I'm answering these questions right now in real time while recording, and you're receiving them recorded, but I didn't cut out my questions. I might wherever I had a pause and think, I might cut out the long pauses and thinking. Sometimes I pause and think for 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds. And so therefore, yeah, I'm going to pause and I'm going to think. Sometimes I may need to reread the question and help me to be able to give a complete answer. But simultaneously, I'm giving you the divine essence of transformation. You're watching me transform into the person I'm becoming as you're learning to transform and become, and we're on this journey together. And so I really appreciate it, because the more of us that are in it together, the more we can build and develop a community. Which that reminds me, you could go join the community. You could go to truthjblue.com, and that you'll be forwarded over to the community that we currently have, and you could get in there and we could begin to discuss, and we could begin to expand and build and grow together. And I can answer questions that you may have about this process, and maybe help you to develop your own list of questions and the stages of becoming where you are on your walk, and for us to be able to really be able to develop a community where we grow and build together. So moving on along. So forgiveness plays the role, necessary awareness, I would say, in my evolution. So forgiveness, I'm always having to be aware of where forgiveness is needed. And as I think about the necessity of it in the evolution, this is really interesting, because not only must I continually forgive myself for the various opportunities that I have to judge myself, or to hold myself guilty, or to make myself feel shameful, or to condemn myself, or to even to be mad in the spirit at certain aspects of my life, or things that are going on in my life. There's so many things from the first 30 years of my life that I lived at what I sometimes refer to as an ignorant thug. And if I spent 31 years as an ignorant thug, then I did a lot of stuff back then that those things really negatively affect me now. And because of those things, I really are those charges and arrest and those various activities that I was involved in. It's it gives me an opportunity to judge myself and to be condemning of myself, because like the other day, I think it was, right now it would have been yesterday. So I was sitting there working on the computer, and I'm trying to record, and if you've seen the previous episode to this if you're watching them in order. I really appreciate you investing your time. But if you're watching if you go and watch 8 and you're watching 9 now after, you can see that in 8 I wasn't the guy I am today. I had got hit with this sadness about some legal things I'm trying to fight, that the court has found prejudice in me because they say that the things are 17 years old, and therefore I can't try to file the habeas. And I was like, well, I didn't even know. And so now I'm just going to get a lawyer, and I know that it's all going to work out. But it's at the time yesterday, I just felt sad when thinking about it, on how much time and how many opportunities I've missed just because of this simple thing that I didn't understand as being a young black man in the United States. And if you're a young black man, and that's the majority of the people that I'm talking to almost in every episode, or young men in general, if you're ever see, what happens is we get wrapped up in stuff that we didn't do, but they still hit us with charges, and then they be like, all right, we'll give you time served because you've been there like 3 or 4 days, and they'll be like, yeah, it's gonna be 3 for 1, and they'll let you out, and so you do all this time, and they be like, all right, yeah, if you plead no contest, we'll just let you out. And you didn't do it, but you plead no contest, and then now you can't appeal, you can't, there's nothing you can do, and they done lied on the paperwork and nothing's right. And it's just I guess I'm gonna say, like, just never take no contest, man. You ever right to a trial, just always stick with you're not guilty, and do what you do what you could do to make sure you have bond money, bro. Because being able to fight from the free is different. They don't keep resetting you as much, you know what I'm saying? They try to get you in, get you out, or even dismiss it, because they don't want no problems with you in real life when they know you didn't do it. But they try to get you caught up with understanding how people value their freedom, and nobody wants to be locked in a box, and the people will say anything to not be locked up and away from their family and away from their friends and their livelihood. And I don't know how I got into this, but I do want to move on to the next question. But it's important, and learning to forgive ourselves, though, for those things that we do. If we find ourselves wrapped up in any type of thing where we've done something that may not have been the right choice or right decision, that was destructive, may have destroyed our lives, destroyed someone else's lives, and then we want to be able to make sure that we're able to forgive ourselves, accept ourselves, love ourselves entirely, and move on from that. So that is very important to understand, the forgiveness of self and the forgiveness of others. Just forgiveness all around is something that we should learn to practice immediately. As soon as you find yourself feeling some type of way about other people, realize how it's a privilege to have them in your life, and begin to appreciate them, and begin to appreciate the opportunity to be able to forgive them immediately and accept them immediately. And this will help you to become more divine, because there has to become a stage where there was no judgment, where there was needed to be forgiveness. And I'm not there. I know there are people there, and we will get there together. A small action that could be taken today that can create a major shift over time. Setting a time aside where at the end of my day, where I have a checklist which I go through, which sets me up for success in the morning, and then another checklist that sets me up for success for setting up my day. And these two things will help me with the way that my energy is spent, and the different opportunities that I have to put something aside, or not do something, or not be able to find something, or have to reshoot an entire video that was an hour and a half long because I didn't have my mic on, or whatever it is. Creating an environment or creating a checklist to effectuate or to be a solution to things that I've noticed have happened on occasion, by making a plan for it not to happen. And that's just a simple action tip that we can always use. We can always make an action plan, steps that we need to follow to accomplish something that we want to accomplish. It seems to be that if we're being honest with ourselves, a lot of the reasons why we haven't done the things that we know that we could have done, say that we should have done, want to do, haven't done yet, is that we just haven't made a plan. And we know that if we make a plan, we could follow the steps and we can do it. It's just we haven't prioritized making the plan, because once we make the plan, we can execute the plan. And once we execute the plan, we can achieve the plan. But the first step is having a plan. The second step is taking action on the plan, and know that, yes, you will have to devise the plan along the way. And we're going to move on with the question. I transmute setbacks into opportunities in the same way that I was just talking about how I use forgiveness to be able to turn that into an opportunity to love people more completely. So when I have these setbacks, and I have them often and frequently. I'm involved in a lot of different things, and I wear a lot of hats, and there's a lot of different things that I'm trying to do. So if you're going to say a setback is something where a thing that was supposed to get done at a specific time, that time had to get set back to be done at a different time. I experience those regularly, weekly for sure. And it's a lot of times because I overschedule, and then I have a priority of the day, and then if I get that done, I have a secondary thing that could be done. And sometimes the secondary thing that could get done is what it's supposed to be, is the priority thing of the next day. But sometimes the priority thing that I thought would only take one day ends up taking much longer than a day, because editing videos takes way longer than I had ever anticipated, and I still haven't really figured it out. But for one video, it can take 3 to 4 hours just to clip everything out, to put in the just to put it, for me, I'm just putting in the questions. And this can really take a good amount of time when you're clipping and cutting and trying to make sure that people are getting only the parts that you want them to get. Because I may answer a question twice because I started answering the question and then I said a word that wasn't the word. So in doing all of that, I also, you right now I'm explaining, you may get this explanation, and I cut out a lot of unnecessary explaining of stuff. I explain a lot of answers, and I explain a lot of questions, and I explain things that are irrelevant to the topic of the video. And so I mean, it's just what I do. I mean, it's just it's Blustrophecy is my show. I do what I want to do, but I do want to make sure that I value your time. And so when I transmute setbacks into opportunities, the way that I do it specifically is I allow it to become something that I learned from, and I begin to give myself more time to do the things that I want to get done, and I respect projects more, and I don't try to give myself multiple projects at a time. And so that turns them into a lot learning opportunities. Every setback is a learning opportunity when you learn from it and you take the necessary actions to correct it, to prevent the which caused the setback from happening again. And this is a skill And it's a necessary skill for anybody who wants to be in business for themselves, who wants to be a master of themselves, and wants to live a happy and aligned life with their purpose. You must learn how to be able to learn from incomplete transactions of energy that we have. So I say incomplete transactions of energy because there's many ways that we try to transact to get a result where there's an expenditure of our energy and we don't get the result, or we fail to hit the milestone on our goals, or we missed a step throughout the day that had we got that step done, then the whole project would have got completed. But lunch went over too long, got stuck in traffic, whatever happens, things happen. But we have to be like, okay, these things happen, and you just accept it, appreciate it, and forgive it, and just accept it as part of the experience. And it gives you an opportunity, one more thing that you will have to be able to share as a tool, as something to help somebody else. And so transmuting setbacks into learning opportunities, and then tools in which you can use to teach other people. There's various ways to transmute setbacks into opportunities, and I hope that this is something that you begin to practice in your life, and you learn from yourself, learn from the lessons that you experience where things just don't get done like you wanted them to get done, or planned for them to get done. The version of me that I'm shedding this week is the one who spends too much time on unproductive activities like watching TV, or sitting on the couch thinking without a pen and paper, or just anything that is not a productive expenditure of time. For me personally, I feel like I'd spend too much time on TV, which I've mentioned a couple of times in this episode. But I genuinely do. I may watch 2 hours of TV in a day sometimes, and that to me is a lot. But if when I watch 3 hours, that's an extreme amount of TV. And even if it is after I've gotten my day done, it's just not a good way to treat my mind, with putting these images in and allowing these things to affect me the way that TV does have an effect on us, and the influencing our thoughts, influencing our beliefs, and the even the way that we experience our environment. It may cause us to have more fear than necessary. Maybe may cause us to be desensitized to things that we shouldn't be desensitized to. But TV and movies, it really must be on in moderation. And when you really, you should, I need to look at it as a treat for me. And I don't know about for you and how you do your time, but for who it is that I'm becoming and where it is that I'm going, TV no longer has a place to be able to be prioritized, or to be inserted into my day, where it may end up I had 15 minutes to give it, but it ends up taking 30 or 45. I just can no longer where I'm at, where I'm going, and who I'm becoming. It's not valuable enough for me. And there's things in our lives that when we begin to see them as not valuable, no longer investments of our energy, but ways that we're spending or wasting our energy, then we should consider other ways of using our time and removing those things that are draining us of our energy, or depleting us of our energy, that may be able to be used in other ways, whether it's going for a walk, doing some exercises, doing some chores around the house, brainstorming, catching up with some friends that you need to call, some family members you haven't talked to in a while. Whatever it is that you do with that time, there's so many other ways that we can use that time. And I really hope that this has been beneficial to you. I hope that you have gained something from this talk and from this chat, we've talked about a lot of different things. We talked about our environment and how we can make our environment reflect our inner world to be able to enhance our growth cycle. We talked about how when we have boundaries set according to our values, that is also vitally important to becoming um whoever it is that we are becoming, each individual becoming a greater, more authentic version of themselves must learn to set boundaries and to remove things that drain them of their energy, and must become more disciplined at servicing people according to their talents and abilities, their highest good, that calling that's in them that others need. We must all become more disciplined at being ready to turn that on and being able to give it to people on demand when we see the opportunity, when we feel the unction, without being fearful, without being frightful, but being who we were created to be, doing what we were created to do at the drop of a hat whenever called upon to do that. And then when we have the opportunities to do it and then we don't do it, and then we get home and we self-reflect and we see it, make sure that we forgive ourselves and don't hold ourselves to a point of shame or condemnation, but we learn to build, develop, and grow from that. And then of course allow yourself to every now and then, every week or every month or so, choose an action that you're going to add to your routine that's going to enhance your life. Say, okay, what action can I take right now at this stage in my transformation, at this stage in my life, that will really begin to make my life more effective, more productive, enhance my life, enhance my love life, enhance my relationships, enhance my business, whatever it is that you're working on at that time. Make sure that you begin to develop habits and routines into your life, one action at a time. And then when you get used to doing that action, taking that step, doing that thing, then you begin to incorporate another thing into it. And then always learn from any setback, any perceived failure, any seemingly flaw that you may come across through your development, through your discovery, through your defining. Just always learn from the things. Never condemn yourself, never beat yourself up. And it's okay to, of course, experience a sense of disappointment within yourself for not meeting the goal, the task, the thing that you wanted to do. And disappointment is natural and it's fine and it's expected, unless you're a psychopath. But don't allow disappointment to go over, I want to say, 3 days, about 48 to 72 hours. Now you're getting into guilt, shame, and things like that. So I'm not saying that don't express disappointment, don't see it as something that needs to be altered, something that needs to be improved. But what I'm saying is that forgive yourself for that, and be able to become aware of it, learn from it, and completely don't even think about it anymore. I don't even remember the things after 2 or 3 days. I don't even remember, like, unless it was something I did to somebody else and I need to keep track of it. Then if it's something I did to myself, I completely forget. It's utterly not trying to remember the thing that no longer is important, just the lesson. And I would have wrote the lesson down, what I learned in my journal, either that night or the next morning. And so remember, just continue to transmute those opportunities, transmute those setbacks into opportunities. And this week for me, I'm shedding the version of me who used to live a mediocre television watching life, allowing the television to invade my thinking space and invade my imagination, instead of using my own imagination, maybe reading books or writing my own story or thinking about the things that I need, or spending some time in nature, whatever it is that I could be spending my time on, that I see more valuable use of my time than watching TV, allowing it to drain me of my energy. then I'm going to begin doing that. And I want to thank you all for your time. Thank you for investing this time with me today. This is the Blustrophecy. I'm Blue. And as always, I hope that you stay aligned, stay awakened, and stay elevated, and keep raising those vibrations higher and higher through love, service, and gratitude. And I'll see you on the next video.
Ooh, I gotta let it shine. No more dimming what's divine.